Welcome. We are back. Another interesting day in the market. Final stream of the week and final stream for a little bit again. Next week, I'm not going to be live. I know this just happened like a couple weeks ago. I was not streaming for like 2 weeks, but this time there's going to be hopefully a very good reason why. And on my next stream, which is going to be some time from now, let's see, the 26th of September, I'll try and stream. I know I've not been doing Monday streams, but actually I can't even do it that day. The 27th is going to be the next stream, so yeah, another break, but you all will see then why, and I'm just going to leave it at that for right now. So let's enjoy this stream. Let's talk about everything going on. It kind of, and Mehdi, I don't know if Mehdi's watching me now. Mehdi always talks about how it's always before I like go on a break or something, and things start looking bearish, and then as soon as I leave, it's just like everything just starts stumping. If it happens again, I mean, that would just be insane, but also not insane because of everything we've been talking about on the charts. So let me put down the music for a second here. So we'll see. But yeah, you see the title of the stream. The market is really hanging on by a thread. I'm going to look at a bunch of charts tonight, show you all why there are some major risks from a technical standpoint right now. Futures are red. What was it? Some company lowered guidance and it fell quite a bit after hours. I can't believe I can't remember right now. Somebody help me in the chat. It was like a 11-12% drop. It was a big company too. But yeah, what's up, AK, Danny D, me, Tenderfoot, Plyboy, and Keanu Trades in the chat. FedEx, thank you, Edit. Yeah, so FedEx fell quite a bit after hours. Did UPS fall as well? So yeah, UPS fell 6%. So we had those fall after hours. What's up, Guy in Hat? How are you doing? And yeah, that's where we're at right now. So a lot still going on. A lot of the things I'm going to talk about tonight are kind of going to be very similar to last night's stream because not much has changed. But it's very important to look at the slight differences I am going to point out today. I'm going to go over the price action from today. Maybe just give some of my game plan going into tomorrow. And yeah, I think tomorrow's triple witching as well. So triple witching Lotto Friday. We'll see what happens. And let's get started with crypto. So as Guy in Hat said in the chat, make sure to drop a like if you're watching live, and if watching the replay, do the same thing. So yeah, starting off with Bitcoin. Let's actually go all the way down to the 1 hour time frame. It is still in this downsloping channel that we talked about last night on stream on the 1 hour. And you also have 1 hour classic bullish divergence. So the lower time frames on Bitcoin look okay to me right now. This is like your third bounce. You're kind of creating this support here around like 19.6k. I mean, look at all these bounces from the end of last month, and you just bounced there twice now in about the past day. So it's like your more short-term support. The longer-term support is 19.9k. But that's not an exact level. Really, this whole entire zone is just a support area. This whole entire like 17, 18, 19k, that's like the support area. It's when you get under 17k, and if you were to make a new low for the year, that's when you would have like no support to like under 14k. So this whole entire area is still support. It's just hopefully you can bounce at a higher price, unless some of you want to buy dips and maybe you want it to bounce or go down first and then bounce. I don't know. But you're still back testing the breakout of this downsloping channel, so not too much has changed there for Bitcoin, and you still have that hidden bearish divergence developing on the daily. But Ethereum, a little bit different. Ethereum is breaking down right now from this rising wedge it's been in. It's got confirmed. So Bitcoin only has potential hidden bearish divergence. Ethereum has confirmed hidden bearish divergence, and it has a confirmed breakdown from this rising wedge and a confirmed bearish engulfing candle. So yeah, you might have a little of support around like 14.25 from these lows, but apart from that support level, that's a pretty rough breakdown. And if you end up breaking 14.25, then you've got that next previous resistance around like 12.50ish, which might flip into a support. So that's ETH. Let's look at some other markets before stocks now. US 10-year going a little bit higher. Bullish engulfing candle today, pretty much testing highs of the year right now. So if you make a higher high, then you would have classic bearish divergence because your MACD is at a much lower high. So eventually, even if you keep on going up, you could get some classic bearish divergence. Maybe that just allows you to drop into a back test of this huge multi-decade resistance. We can look at on the monthly time frame as we have been. So, you know, maybe drop into that, back test it. That was even a high from 2018. So that's really where that's at. Crude oil dropping lower. We talked about this literally last night. I was saying it's getting towards the end of this bear flag, and you did get the pullback today. So yeah, you have now dropped under the 85.47 support level. Bearish engulfing candle and a breakdown confirmed on the daily. So crude oil looking bearish to me. We have the metals. Wow, this is actually big. Gold is breaking a huge support. This 1677 level, you've held it since you broke above it in May of 2020, just after the COVID crash. So if we're going to talk about another variable on top of the bearish harmonic setup on the SPY for the weekly, on top of the triangle breakdown the SPY is testing on the daily, on top of all the macro things going on top of the VIX wedge that it's testing a breakout of, on top of the US 10-year breaking out of a decade-long range, on top of the dollar breaking out of a 2-decade-long range, we also have gold breaking a support level it has not broken since the rally after the COVID crash. This is all happening at the same time. I usually don't get this serious on the stream, but this is a very serious thing taking place right now that could affect the market very, very quickly if we confirm this breakdown. So I didn't even look at this today. I'm looking at this for the first time. If gold is the first to kind of go down, like, that's going to be very interesting. And we're talking about this happening in an environment of inflation. So just look back at history and see why this is just very weird. This whole entire setup from all these other markets and the stock market is just very weird. Moving on to silver. It was testing a breakout of this down sloping channel yesterday, but it looks like it pulled back a little bit today with the bearish engulfing candle. A lot of bearish engulfing candles today. And then finally, dollar currency index, pretty inside candle day, nothing much changed there. So those are the other markets. That gold breakdown really did stand out to me. Let's move over to stocks now. Let me give my thoughts on the market and why it's hanging on by a thread. It's the same reason that I've been saying for the past 2 weeks now. I've been saying nonstop, I'm midterm bearish on the market. I think this triangle is going to break down, and I still think the same thing. You're in this interesting area where you kind of have already broken down from the triangle, but you're still at a support. If we go down to the 1 hour time frame, you can see this support around 390-ish. There's resistance over here, support here, and it's kind of support here as well. So you are breaking down from the trend line that we've been talking about, this white trend line. On the 4 hour, you can see the triangle pattern on the daily. You are breaking down from that right now, but you still are testing the support. So I am still midterm bearish. I still think all the same things. It's just short term. I still have to say, like, yes, you're still holding your short term support. But again, I've been saying this for the last 2 nights on stream. Even if you do end up holding this support and you rally off of it, I still think eventually we break it and go lower. So I'm not too, I'm not going to get too excited if we start bouncing off this. And futures are pretty red regardless. Technically, if you look at futures, you're kind of already under that, I believe. So you know, if we just really zoom out here, you can see very clearly this is the big level, right? This is like the inflection zone. It was kind of this gap area over here. I mean, let me just put arrows so you can see how huge this whole entire level is. Look how many times since June we have tested this level, okay? And we are once again testing the same exact level. You held it twice in the beginning of the month. We'll see what happens this time, but this level breaks, and I think that's really what sets up the initial move down, the actual move down. We had a horrible day on Tuesday is when the Nasdaq was down 5%. I don't know if we're gonna get another negative 5% day, but when we're talking about just an overall move that can keep continuing lower, take us to maybe test the lows of the year, I think it would all start from this level. So this is obviously the huge level to keep an eye on, and I can't even say I'm short-term bearish until we break that level. So still, short-term, I'm neutral. All I know short-term is whatever we react to this level is going to be your short-term move. If we bounce off it or if we break it. However, mid-term, I'm bearish. So whether that means this happens, or this happens, or this happens, I don't know. But I still think eventually this level is going to crack. I just don't see it holding with everything else going on. But who knows? there's any exact place for me to start being wrong, it would be here, because this is a huge level. So we will see what happens. In terms of the other technicals going on, you did get a 4-hour bearish engulfing candle. You got 4-hour hidden bearish divergence. I don't feel like there's ever been streams before up until this week where I've said the word bearish so much. I just don't know. I mean, I'm just talking about what I see on the charts. I'm not making these things show up on the charts. They just are. So yeah, those are some more technical formations you're seeing on the daily. Let me look at the Bollinger Bands. You're not even at the lower Bollinger Bands currently. So this is it. This is the big test. If we go down to really low time frames on the SPY today, you know, I did draw out this like wedge pattern. You can draw it out, just keep an eye on it for tomorrow. But again, if we gap down, you could literally fall under this pattern. And that's really about it. I have some more important shorter term levels on the 15-minute here. Also on the 1 hour, if we do end up cracking this 390-ish support level, it kind of even is like 389 as well. But if we do end up breaking that, then the next levels to the downside is first 385, which is your lows from over here in May 13th. And then also your lows from over here, March 25th of last year, highs from January 22nd of 2021. That's your next level. If we break under 389, you got around 385. And then you have a gap fill at around 383. You've got another support level around 381. You could see a couple of lows and highs to that level. You've got a gap fill at 378. And then you've got this bigger area, which is the lows of the year. You see this zone I've drawn out. You have all these lows from over here, as well as a gap fill at 368. So the white lines you see here are downside gaps that are not filled yet. The orange lines are potential supports. And then this yellow area is just like a zone between a potential support and the gap fill. So those are kind of what all those different color-coded lines on my chart mean. And then of course, vice versa to the upside, those are your resistances. So those are levels on the SPY. It's just all about how we react to this level. We'll see what happens. So let's move on to the Qs now, which were down more than the SPY today. They closed at the lowest price, or this is the lowest close since July 18th. So this is the lowest close for the QQQ in pretty much 2 months. So lowest close right there. We talked about how this rejected that blue zone again on Tuesday night stream. So it's kind of like you had a fake break back above it, and now you're just kind of back testing that area as resistance. You're falling again. If you look at it like this, you've already kind of broken down from like a bear flag over here. And not only did you break down from the bear flag, you back tested the breakdown. You broke down, you flipped your support into a resistance, and then you went lower again. That's like even more bearish confirmation. So looking at the levels on the Qs on the 1 hour, you have some support at 288, then 285, then 280, 280. All right. So those are your next levels for the QQQ. We've got the Russell 2000. Not much to talk about here. It's just getting closer towards the demand line of this bear flag. We go over to the 1 hour time frame. You have this like 1 hour bear flag that you just broke down from. Started out like that. So bear flags across the board. Next support on the Russell 2000 is around 178.5. Let's go over to 4 hour bearish engulfing candle, hidden bearish divergence. It just doesn't stop. It's crazy. Yeah, so those are like the major indices, all red, but this is a key word, but the ARK ETF up 2% today. Growth stocks, mid caps up 2% today, and more at one point. Also in the morning, EVs had a really hot start. Fisker was up like 8% at one point. Tesla was up a few percent at one point. I think Lucid was up a few percent at one point. Like the charging EV names, like Blink was up maybe like 5% or something. I think just a bunch of the names were up quite a bit. One of them pops like really huge, like in like, if I could find it, in a very quick amount of time. Might have been Blink. Yeah, Blink kicked off the day, and we looked at this last night on stream. We looked at all of them last night on stream. Blink kicked off the day with a 6% candle in 15 minutes. And it wasn't even like a big gap up. Like literally you opened and Blink went up 6% within 15 minutes. Like if anybody traded calls like right at the open, that would have been an insane amount of profit very quickly. And I literally was watching it on my watch list if I didn't trade it. But yeah, we talked about all those EV names. If you watched last night's stream, I did a whole entire segment on EV names, and a lot of them had a really good start to the day. However, when the market started pulling like pretty much this from like this top over here, then most of them kind of went like green to red or green to flat or green to less green. They pulled back pretty much. So let's look at some of those names. We're going to start off with Fisker, which today made a huge move. It gapped up a little bit, made a huge move all the way up to around $10. And then at $10, it kind of topped out. So where is it at now? So you went all the way up to $10, you went all the way back down, you filled the gap in the same day, you gapped up this morning, you filled the gap, and now you are back testing this previous area of resistance as a support. So top of this range that you just broke out of literally yesterday, you're now trying to flip into a support. But again, and this is what I was saying with everything yesterday on the stream, even when Mr. LinkedIn tipped about like a potential Bitcoin trade up, I've been saying there are all these bullish charts. They're there. The EVs, Bitcoin, they're there. But the issue is the SPY, and it's just not really looking the best to me. And the same thing for a lot of other markets. So, you know, as much as there are charts that I see, and it's like these are the type of charts that usually I would put out swing trades on, you can see I just haven't been doing that because I don't trust the macro environment right now. So, you know, we could see a lot of days like this where you have like a hot start to the day and then the market just ruins it. And like that's why like when I'm getting profits on my calls on day trades, like I'm taking the profits. Like I traded Fisker calls this morning, I traded Lucid calls this morning, I traded SPY calls and puts today. I'm just like, the profits are there, I take my profits, because we're just in this environment where like you can lose the gains like it's nothing. And also it's still also hard to go like direct short because you have things like this. I don't know if any of you saw it today. There was this like 5-minute wedge pattern, and you literally almost went red to, you might have went red to green, I don't know if you did exactly, but you had this wedge pattern. I shared it in premium. So like anybody who was just shorting nonstop, like, you know, move like this where you like randomly on the SPY just go up like 1% in an hour, that could trap a lot of shorts as well. So it just creates a very hectic environment. And for me, it's all about just being quick. It's just about trading quicker and being able to be like water, like how Bruce Lee would say. I know Trader Freeze brings up that quote all the time, but just being able to trade what I want when I want, that's a very big ability that is important in this environment for the market when it's very choppy. And it also obviously comes with a lot of experience. So you know, you got to keep charting, you got to keep looking at how different market environments can be traded differently. For any beginner traders, this is probably a very, very confusing time. So make sure you're finding out a way to help yourself, whether that's the free course in the description, the free Discord in the description, if you want to join premium, whatever it is, watching the streams, which you should be doing, all that stuff. Just this is the time to be learning. And if you can really learn and master your skills in this environment, when you get an environment like what happened after the COVID crash, when we had this bull run, it'll be life-changing money, most likely. So if you can find a way to survive and maybe even thrive over here, then when we get another time like this, and we will, maybe not as insane as that, but we will at some point get something like this, whether it's, you know, from like here to there or whatever it is, but on this leg of it, you could change your life. So it's all about just learning and becoming better and better and not giving up until we get to that easier environment. So yeah, just going back to Fisker last night, I don't know if you saw the clip, but I looked at the weekly chart, still pretty much looks the same. I tweeted about it a little bit, but this is pretty like white coffee-ian. It's like this white coffee accumulation that's taking place. I mean, this maybe could even be considered the spring. So for those of you who've been around for a while, you've seen this before. January of 2021, it was a life-changing trade for a lot of people. I noticed this white coffee accumulation on Fisker, and it went from like $15 to its all-time high. So it was literally this move, like right over here, where I'm pointing to. So, and this is on the weekly time frame. What I identified as white coffee accumulation back then was on the daily time frame, and this was it. So we were looking at like a little range right over here, right? A little range on the daily time frame, and that led to like a 100% increase on Fisker. This little yellow box, you could barely even see it on the weekly time frame. Now, this is what we're looking at, just so you can get the scale of things. This also lines up with production in a month and a half. The production starts like in a month and a half or whatever, and vehicles on the road next year. So if there's any time for there to be a phase D of Wyckoff accumulation, if this is it, just wow. Let me copy and paste this, and let's delete everything again. Let's have a little bit of fun really quickly. So this, and it's really hard to line this up perfectly. And if anybody was here back in like the CLOV day, there was actually CLOV days. There's actually a Wyckoff accumulation on CLOV in August of 2021 that led to a 50% move in 20 days. And I used to bring up this chart like the whole entire time back then. And there was a lot of confusion. Again, this is not about every single up and down line matching perfectly. It's about seeing all the different variables, the spring, the LPS, the BU, SOS, all these different variables. That's what you're mainly looking for. It doesn't have to be all these little lines like perfectly matching the candles, although that helps for sure. But we just kind of look at it something like this. And honestly, like it does actually line up really well. I mean, look at the black lines over here kind of going up. Then you go down, then you have like this like up move like over here, the correction, this move up here, then you sell off over here. You have the spring, you have the test, like wow. And this can fail, but it's very easy to tell if it fails. You would know if it fails if you broke under $8. So this is not a risk-free investment. I don't think there is any risk-free investment that's legal. But it is a very interesting reward to risk if it does play out, where the potential reward, if this is to play out, is much greater than the risk of it not playing out. So, and this is just to get to the top of the Wyckoff range. What happens if you break out of the Wyckoff range? We will see. So this is just the first time I'm kind of talking about this on the stream. I'm going to be talking about this on the stream a lot more. Again, I'm still worried about the overall market. That can't override all of this. So we're just keeping an eye on it for now. This is not like a main focus or anything for right now. I'm not putting out a swing trade because of this right now, but it is something that I think is important to at least start watching to see if we get some more confirmation. And if we do, maybe it's a fun time. So yeah, that's like very long-term stuff. This is a weekly time frame chart. This is literally all of Fisker's chart. So, you know, it could take a very, very long time for all of that to take place. But yeah, all right, so that was Fisker. I don't know if we talked about like short-term levels. I think we did. Yeah, I talked about how it's back testing there. So also this morning Lucid had a nice move. It's still kind of testing a breakout, maybe even back testing it on the 1 hour. On the 4 hour, it's not really broken out yet though. You can see it like this. But this morning I did alert Lucid calls. I think I alerted Lucid calls somewhere around like over here, and those calls, you know, very quickly more than doubled in the morning, and it was a very fun trade. And then it kind of, you know, reversed with everything else later in the day. Yeah, I took a bunch of profits like on this whole entire way up, and then I still had like a little bit, and I think I cut it when it broke like right down over here. But yeah, nice profitable trade if you're in premium. That was a great start to the day. But just in general, we talked about all these EVs last night on the stream, and a lot of them again had a really good start to the day. But you know, it faded. And one other thing I didn't mention, we can go look at Fisker for a second again. You kind of did get some shooting star candles with, you know, the fact that you went up so much in the morning and you gave back the gains. Even Fisker kind of has one, so that is a little bit concerning as well for a lot of growth stocks. So keep an eye on that. Tesla, another one. I alerted Tesla calls today. I think I alerted the Tesla calls like right over here, and then over here the Tesla calls were up like 50%. Again, just two very quick trades that, you know, I was able to take profits on both personally at a pretty good price. And even later on in the day, and this was a little bit weird, but later on in the day it did like kind of break back above this resistance you see around 305, broke out of this triangle too. And believe it or not, I made profits on Tesla calls like right over here, like half an hour after the open. And then I tried to re-enter Tesla calls, and I did. And I literally got stopped over here because I thought it was for a little bit breaking the VWAP, but I didn't wait till the candle closed. And if I would have just waited like 3-4 more minutes, it would have been a fun time. But it was still a nice screen day for me. Can't perfectly trade every single pattern that shows up, but yeah, Tesla still is above the 200-day moving average. Still looks like a potential cup and handle, but every single chart I just have to take with a grain of salt because of what we talked about in the overall market. So that was Tesla. GameStop was green today. up 2%. MACD just flipped over to green. On the 4-hour, we talked about that wedge breakout, I think, last week, and that's been pulling out nicely. And this is also pretty big. GameStop is actually testing a breakout on this 28.42 level. You can see it was your low is like over here, and then you did flip it into resistance over here, and now you're trying to break back above it after putting in this like close to a bullish pin bar candle. It's not textbook though. But let's go over to the 1-hour time frame. You could even maybe look at it like a bull flag that it just broke out of as well. Like, there is some stuff setting up here on GameStop, and if there is like any stock which has done well when the market hasn't, it was GameStop and maybe even AMC if you remember the beginning of 2021. So like, if there are any stocks that could kind of just go in their own world if the actual market's just being super volatile, yeah, it might be the meme stocks, but I'm not saying like for sure. Just something to keep an eye on, see if we can confirm a breakout off that level. AMC was flat today, but again, it was another stock that had a nice morning at least. We did talk about this ascending Browning wedge. It kind of broke down and then back tested the demand line, flipped into supply, and now it's pulling back again, but it still is above 964. You can see that was resistance over here. So that's like a more short-term important level. It was resistance multiple times actually. But just looking through a bunch of different charts on my watch list, you know, probably around 11, you have the 200-day moving average. That's going to be a bigger level of resistance. But as long as you can hold above this like mid $8 zone, it still is looking interesting. I'm just worried about like, you know, let's say the SPY breaks down and then this turns into a bear flag and then you reject the 200-day moving average and then something like this happens. You know, that's the bigger concern, but at least short term it's interesting. And then we have CLOV down a little bit today. Nothing really changed. It's kind of where it was yesterday. This might be a little bit of a bear flag forming though, or like a bearish pennant. We can look at it like that. So you gave up that 240 support level we were talking about, I think like Tuesday night earlier in the week. And now it's testing a breakdown from this bearish pennant. So like, it's a little bit rough. You know, if the SPY breaks down, maybe this drops into the 220 zone. But what do you have in that 220 zone? We talked about it. Pattern completion zone of a bullish bat. So, you know, it's not the end of the world if it gets there. And then even if you break that, then you have major support from multiple lows this year at $2. So like, yeah, it's not been doing too well since it hit the 200-day moving average and had earnings. But that's why there was a target. Second target was a swing trade up there. And now it's kind of dropping back into more support areas. And then, hey, even if you do drop a little more, then maybe you get some hidden bullish divergence. Like, there are technicals that could line up in the next couple of weeks. They're just not really lined up right now for CLOV. So that is CLOV. SOFI today was up a few percent. We talked about a wedge breakout like maybe last week. It was a while back. And then you had that breakout and then it kind of broke this demand line. It sold off and now it's kind of running again. So again, there's areas of the market that are doing their own things to a certain extent. So SOFI, it's kind of in between this like 560 support level and 660 resistance. Just see which way it breaks first. Because you have a bunch of different patterns charted here. It's been pretty crazy couple of months. Like, overall, it's kind of done nothing. It's just back to where it was in June. But in between, you had like bullish patterns and bearish patterns play out. Like, I don't know, it's just a good looking technical chart. Like, it's done not much over time, but in between, there's been a lot of different tradable scenarios. So yeah, those are most of the takers on my watch list. Again, tonight's stream just kind of like a little recap stream to end the week. Nothing that much really changed, but there's a lot. It just feels like there's a storm brewing. That's probably the easiest way to put it. And yeah, let me take a look at the chat. Me Tenderfoot says, if large caps are destined to get wrecked like small caps, this will be ugly. Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about that for sure. Like, you know, if we look at something like the ARK ETF on the weekly, right? The ARK ETF already did this. It's already back down to where it was during the COVID crash. It completed a full M-shaped, it's not a textbook harmonic, but a full scuffed harmonic, right? If you were to perceive the market as a series of harmonics, which some people actually do, the ARK ETF has already completed its cycle, right? We go over to the SPY and take a look at the SPY in a second here. SPY is only here. It is literally only here. So, you know, your comment was if large caps are destined to get wrecked like small caps, then is this to come for the SPY? And also, if this is to come for the SPY, what happens to mid caps and small caps? Will they be able to outperform large caps? Because they haven't been able to outperform large caps really since like the end of 2020, beginning of 2021. So then maybe, you know, what happens to these is a bear flag and then potentially even lower. Or, and I would not be complaining at all if this happens, or they do outperform large caps and we have this environment where institutional money is getting pulled out of the market and becomes like a stock pickers environment, and you just have these individual companies maybe running on news or whatever it is, and that brings up the overall indices for small caps and mid caps. Moral of the story is there are so many potential scenarios, and I could talk about this for hours and bring up all the potential future moves for the market, and probably a lot of them are going to be right and wrong at the same time. You're going to go up and you're going to go down, you're going to go up, you're going to go down. But the overall picture that's concerning is this fact that the SPY is only there. And what if it is to go there with the hidden bearish divergence and all the macro things taking place, and yeah, like I was just literally sitting in a class and my professor was talking about how like we haven't had a bear market in like 12 years, or I mean really like 14 years since 2008, and typically you get them like every decade, because the COVID crash, it was like a 2-month event. It really wasn't like a long sustained bear market. And then also we were having the ETF call. You have a simulator ETF in the Discord if you're not aware about what that is. Link for the Discord is in the description. Basically, we are managing a long-term account for all of you to view. I think when we talked about it in the call, we were actually up 5% with the market pulling back, which is crazy because we have been hedging with stuff. But Lord Bogendorf and the rest of, you know, Medi Anna and Lord Bogendorf's friend, we've all been, you know, talking about things. And we had a call last week for the simulator ETF. And Lord Bogendorf was also talking about the same thing. Like, you know, if these events are to play out, it could take a while. So we'll see what happens. And Clovis Franklin chasing recession happens on average every 7 to 8 years. So yeah, I mean, these are a lot of variables stacked up, and like, you know, I've said it since day one. If the market goes to zero, I'll still be streaming. We'll be talking about the market at zero. I don't know what else to say, but yeah, this is why it's so important to learn how to make money on both sides of the market. It's not always going to go up. However, most of the time, historically, it just goes up over time, but there are the bear markets in between where a lot of people lose a lot of money. So if you can prepare yourself for that ahead of time, then you'll be fine. But you have to also do that carefully, because again, there's no certainty that's going to happen. Nothing is certain. It's this very weird double-edged sword. That's what trading is. So you just got to figure out how to use the double-edged sword. And if you can do that, you will be a great warrior, to complete that analogy. Zeke says, check out the weekly bear flag. Probably looking at this, I'd assume. Yeah, you're pretty much testing a breakdown of that as well. I'm sure it's on the Qs at the same time. Like, just add it to the list. We have to, like, Zeke, can you make like a list of all the things we've talked about, like the VIX breakout, which for those of you who haven't been around is this, the VIX breakout, SPY bear flag, the SPY harmonic, the SPY triangle, the US 10-year, the dollar. Can we make just like a bullet point list of everything lined up, and then maybe have somebody help out with like the macro stuff as well? Like, it's crazy. And that's where we're at. So I think the funniest thing, I think the funniest thing would be is, imagine all of this we've been talking about literally does nothing, and we just like go to all-time highs in like 3 months. That would actually be funny to me. Because that's not what it looks like at all. But we're not like it's still not impossible. I mean, and this is the crazy thing, like it feels like we've already had like a crazy bear market, because it has been a horrible year for the market and a lot of stocks. But we would only have to go up 20% to be back at all-time highs. So it's just very weird. Like, it feels like we're kind of down here because a lot of stocks are kind of down here or even lower, but the SPY is still up here. So it's just, I don't know, the whole entire situation right now, I don't really think you can properly compare the current environment of the market to any environment in the past. And that's why it's still hard to try and look back at 2008 or 2000 or the crashes before, even the Great Depression, because there are still a lot of elements to this that are very different. And I talked about this quote last time on the stream from Mark Douglas. Every moment in the market is unique, but also there are times where history repeats itself. So again, going back to the analogy, it's all just one big double-edged sword. And the whole entire reason I stream is to try and help all of you, and maybe even myself, figure it out. So yeah, that's pretty much the stream for tonight. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you're interested in premium, and again, I can't guarantee these results forever, but the market's been pretty up and down and choppy, and it might be hard for some people to trade it. This is how the last 12 alerts have gone. If you're interested in stuff like this, it's definitely not always going to be like this, okay? I'm not promising you this is how every single series of 12 trades is going to go. It's just not going to be like that. But if you're interested in everything else, and like I talked about earlier in the stream, really learning how to do this craft during the hard times so that you can really excel during the easy times, and if you're willing to put in that work ahead of time, all the links are in the description, premium, the course, everything. So go check those out over the next week, because again, if you miss a beginning stream, not going to be live next week. But there is a reason that I'm not even going to talk about for right now, but if it works out, you all will find out, and it'll be insane. It'll be actually insane. So we'll see. Wish me luck, and I wish all of you luck. So have a good weekend, have a good night, and peace out.